Welcome to the Endless Entrepreneurs YouTube channel. My name is Luke Henson. I am a eBay, Poshmark, and Mercari seller. I also invest in real estate. I buy and hold long-term rentals in the residential space, and I also work full-time in the corporate world, and use this channel as a primary means to document the first two businesses and show how I balance them as a full-time employee in the corporate world. The title of this video suggests I'm going to talk about social media and maybe the negative impacts that it can have on your reselling business. I recently just did a video, I think it was Wednesday, and it was related to eBay sales being slow. I have an Instagram account, I have a YouTube obviously here, and I get to see a lot of the comments and trending topics that are kind of flying throughout the reseller community on a pretty regular basis. And I screen really heavily who I follow and what I kind of allow on my feed. But one thing, in response to the video to Wednesday, it kind of got a lot more traction, a lot more comments than I normally get on videos. I think there was like 120 comments on there. And it was really interesting just getting all the different views of people related to eBay, the slow sales, the things around it, what they've heard, why they feel that way. And one of the themes that really came out and stood out to me as I was reading through all the comments and replying, I try to reply to everyone, and I read through every comment so far, is that what people are consuming online via YouTube, whether it be me or someone else or the feed, is having a big impact on how they view their reselling business, or how they operate the reselling business, or how a company is trending. And I think that it's a really important topic, an interesting topic. It's definitely affected me this way, and I'm going to give some examples of how it's really impacted my business previously, and what I've done around social media to kind of guard to that. But also I think it's a really important topic, since there is a lot of information out there all over the place to help you with your business. And that is one of the goals of my channel, is I want to help other resellers. I had a ton of awesome content creators help me when I first got started, many years ago with my reselling business. I just think it's a great way to share information, to meet, to network. That's one of the other big reasons I have this channel. But I also think there's a definite negative downside to the social media within the community when you don't apply it the right way to your business, when you're not using the right methods, so to speak, of consumption into translating into productive pieces to your business. So I'm going to go through a couple of themes I have here, what I really sticks out to me from a negativity standpoint, just the things that I think are really detractors that you should be on the lookout for, and just some really interesting views. And I'll be curious to see what other people think, at the end of this video. Always love the interaction in the comments, but I'm going to jump right in. This is live. I'll do Q&A at the end, like always. So if you're rewatching this for a second time, there'll be Q&A in the back half. And that's why I'll be kind of interacting with the chat as we go. So just kind of level setting that this was really a theme that stood out to me after this last video I did. And one of the big things just to start with is that when people are consuming, I think this is a big problem, and this happened to me early on when I was consuming a lot of content, is I took the blueprint of what other resellers or other people who were doing what I wanted to do, and they were showing kind of like the blueprint or the things or the strategies or however you could really evolve and do this. And I followed that blueprint way too rigid. I just like to the T, every step, every single thing that they said, I did it, I copied it, I mimicked it, and that's what I did. And I'm not saying it's a bad strategy just starting out when you're brand new and figuring the things out. But I think one of the things that we're really not as in tune with and aware of, that I definitely wasn't, is that everyone's geographic region and area you're in affects what you can source, how you can source it. And those little nuances impact what that blueprint should look like for your business model, how you should operate. The little things, tweaking listings, pricing, presentation, maybe what you source, how you source it, the brands you're looking for versus not, one part of the country versus the other. There's a lot of variation to that can impact how you should be operating your business to optimize it. And I think that if you follow all the how-tos and the rigidness of it, it's really, really tough to kind of take your business to that next level, because you're just really doing what someone else is doing somewhere else, and that really can detract from it. Terry's in the chat. Hi, Terry. How you doing? Terry is amazing. She's been a part of this community for a long, long time. I will tell Shannon that you missed her, and thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. I hope that all is well with you. Hope that the weather is warm this winter for you, and that you're staying out of trouble, hopefully. And hopefully business is doing well for you. But yeah, that first, when I first look at the blueprint concept, right? I think that YouTube's fantastic. I mean, heck, I Googled or YouTube how to change my toilet seat many years ago when I was living in an apartment, and the bolts got loose. YouTube has everything step by step that you can figure out, and it's fantastic wealth of information. So I mean, just Google and internet in general, right? It's created information being so flat and available all the time. But what you can't research necessarily is that you can't research the application of it necessarily, right? You can get the information, but there's not a step-by-step of how to apply it to your specific situation all the time. There's not a one-for-one in your geographic area, your size, at your scale, at the amount of items you have. Like there's just not that type of application how-to out there. There's the how-to of what to look for, and how this is how you do a listing, and this is those general best practices. But like within those lines, you also have to customize and fit it to your model so it works for you, and you grow within your niche and within your area. Like I think that's really, really, really important. And I think that's where social media can really stunt you when you're growing, especially early as a reseller. So yeah, that's one big thing. And Terry, that's awesome. Terry said she's killing it with her business, her lip sense business. That's fantastic. So that's number one. Number two, and this is kind of, I want to say this with a grain of salt, because I respect anyone who is trying to better and bring information to resellers and community, because the only reason I'm reselling right now is because I stumbled across Steve Rakin's YouTube channel back in like 2013 or 2014. Like that's the only reason I'm selling clothing. I was reselling before that, but it's the only reason I'm selling clothing. And I give a lot of credit back to him that he took the time to share his journey and give tips back then. And like, that's the reason why. Him and Ronnie Hart is another big one over in Hart's Pickers. But it's just, you also have to really screen carefully what information you're taking in. Because there's a lot of information out there, and not all of it is relevant or accurate or up to date. And this is another thing. It might not even be intentional that it's now bad information, but someone might have put it out 2 years ago and it's now not relevant to right now, right? Watching a haul video from 2017, the beginning of 2017 or end of 16, probably isn't going to help you identify what to be on the lookout for when you're out there sourcing. Watching what sold videos from 2 years ago isn't going to be as helpful in your business, and probably going to hurt you because you're picking up trends that were old and probably out of date now. And then there's just kind of, someone might be giving their best tips that they know, but those tips themselves might not be as efficient as the way it really should be done. And they just don't know that. I don't think there's ever an intent to mislead people when you're a content producer for the most part. Like when you're trying to give tips and how-tos and videos, like it doesn't benefit you to mislead anyone. And that's why I don't think it's ever intentional. But I think as a consumer of content, you just have to test it, right? Like you have to actually test and validate it and make sure it's working, and not just blindly believe it and do that for your entire business. Like you really have to test it yourself. And I think that that applies as a reseller across the board, right? For when you're researching what to source, when you're researching how to sell it, like all these different things that you researching should be a primary thing of what you do. And it should be no different when you're consuming content about what, trying to better your business or better yourself. So those are the two, like really just kind of consumption based kind of, I don't know if I want to call them tips, but just things I'm noticing that you really should be cautious and be on the lookout for when you're consuming the social media and not letting it impact your business. And I have some other biggies that I want to hit on right here. And, the one thing is that people, I don't think, and I'm really guilty of this, is we don't test things enough on our own. So I know I was really bad at it for probably 2 years ago when I was just starting to make content, and I was growing a lot really fast for me, like as a single seller. A lot of times new features would come out with eBay or whatever platform, and I would just go watch the latest video from someone I trusted or whatever about their take on it and what they were doing to adapt to it. And I would kind of I would just do what they were doing initially, so that I didn't have to spend all the time up front doing it, like doing the research to, respond to it. So it's kind of like a Band-Aid approach, just consume it, apply it. And I really think that you need to spend the time to test it yourself, like break things yourself, figure out how the feature actually works, like try all the different ways to maximize the features. Because all these new features and requirements come out. And I mean, for me, I love anytime a platform changes, I love it, because, and no offense to anyone watching, but 50% of the community gets really negative about it, right? And this comes back to the social media thing. Something on a platform changes, usually people complain about it, publicly complain about it, rampantly complain about it. And usually you lose people to the platform. Like some are just so put off by whatever happened, they don't want to adjust to it, they go somewhere else. And to me, it's like, that's awesome as a competitor. Like that's my best time where I can capitalize, because now I can test it. I can figure out how to work within it. I can figure out how to make it my advantage, and I can outlast my competition. So that's just another way where like that social media piece, when features change on platforms and people kind of go viral talking about them, right? You kind of have two approaches here. Is you can kind of jump on and headline read and kind of bandwagon on it and be like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's really bad, stay away from it. Or you can flip the script on that and you can consume it as a positive thing and be like, all right, well, that many people are upset about it. They're not focusing on how to fix it or how to work around it. I'm going to go the other direction. I'm going to figure out how to maximize it. I'm going to take their market share while they're not doing anything about it. And I'm going to better my business within the platform. So those are just like the two ways where you can really either heads or tails kind of flip the script on whether that's going to help or hurt you when those things change. So that's number 3. So number 4, just kind of going on the list here and looking over, I'll make sure I go in the right order that makes sense here. So this is, I guess I'll probably not going to end with this one. This is my second to last one. This is the biggest one. And I think this is where social media becomes the biggest deterrent to you as a business owner, growing your business, especially being in the community within the social media of what you're doing, is falling into the trap of comparing your business and where you're at to someone else that you follow or interact with. Like let's face it, the stuff we post on social media for the most part on our businesses is all the highlight reel stuff. I'll post some things I'm having trouble with to get feedback or things like that. But at the end of the day, like you're getting kind of a highlight reel of all these high points to your business, right? Like people are posting sales numbers, they're posting, all their packages they're shipping out, and I think that what happens is you get, and I was very guilty of this, early on, you see what someone's doing in the same month, in the same year as you are, and you feel like you're putting in this all the effort, and you're like, how are their sales 3 times what mine is? Like, what am I doing that's so bad? And you get stuck in this rut of wanting to catch up. And in the effort to catch up, what happens is you start taking shortcuts and you start trying to do things maybe the wrong way and not slow and methodically growing. And when that happens, I think that you basically set your business back a ton because you took those shortcuts. Instead of you had your business plan, you understand what you're doing, you research, you were confident about what you're doing, you're methodically building it, and then you start comparing, you go on that slippery slope, you start sacrificing some of the pieces of your plan to go a little faster to try to get more sales, maybe a little short-sighted, maybe you're selling for a little lower than you should just to get sales going because you want to post that awesome picture of all the sales, bundled up going out on Monday. I think those things, and I'm just giving you small examples. And the only examples I'm really giving, honestly, are ones I'm observing or ones I'm guilty of, because I think we're all guilty of it. But I think it's something to really think about and think critically is, are you allowing things like that to jeopardize your business and how you know that you're going to grow it? And Sadie, I see your question. I'll answer it in one second. I just want to finish this last one. I definitely will get to it. But I think that comparison piece really is a huge trip up for a lot of resellers, especially like early, I'd say after you've been reselling for like 6 months. In the beginning, you don't do it as much, right? Because I'm new and it's fine. And I feel like fine about it, right? Like I'm like, okay, like I'm new. I don't expect to be near anyone. But then after 6 months of grinding and you kind of got your rhythms down, you're starting to grow. Then you start complaining like, well, why aren't I where they are, right? Why aren't I over here? Why haven't I caught up to them yet? I'm doing all the things they're doing. Why? And you just end up undermining yourself, and you don't mean to. And I think something you should really be on guard for. I think that's why I'm the biggest believer in writing your business plans down. Like I have some older videos on it. I haven't done one on a while, but now that we're coming to the new year, I will put out a video. I'm going to do a very detailed business plan. I'll share it. I'll show how I did my business plan. I'll probably have to gray out some of the things that are strategic with suppliers, but I think that writing your business plan down, reviewing it on a monthly basis, editing it as needed, and sticking to it is a big deal, and it helps you avoid this trap. So I really wanted to make sure that people were thinking about that. And the last real point I want to make, and then we'll do some Q&A and kind of talk through this issue some more, is just the overall negativity that can come out of consuming too much of this stuff, right? And consuming stuff that's not helpful to your business really, really is damaging. I work really hard. The reason I make comments all the time that I don't consume a lot of content anymore, that was really intentional. The couple of things I've listed, I've been guilty of in the past. And what I had to do is I had to very strategically unfollow and only follow a very discrete amount of people who have the same attitude I have. And what I mean by that is I want to follow people who are optimistic, who aren't complaining, right? Because that complaining ends up being complaining's a slippery slope because it's easy to jump in. And then when you're spending effort complaining instead of finding a solution. And so it's I've spent a lot of time trying to kind of curate what content comes in and out so that I can stay in that positive mind frame. So when things are going wrong in my business, I'm still consuming optimistic, positive content around the things that I care about so that I can approach it and have a kind of a clear mind about how am I going to solve these issues that I'm dealing with on a daily basis, right? Not getting bogged down with that negativity. I don't think it goes unnoticed how taxing that amount of negativity within social media can be when you're consuming it every day, right? You're just scrolling, you're looking at stories, things. And it's like, whether it's the empathetic side of you, as you feel bad for someone going through something or whatever, it's like, I don't think it's bad to consume and to be there and to be supportive of people, right? Because like, I think being supportive in this reseller community is why we have such a great community. It's why I've made content as long as I have in it. I think that's why so many people come to this community, because it can be very positive and supportive. But the problem is like, if you're around a lot of negativity without any solutions, then that becomes the norm, and it just really, really crushes you and being productive in your business. And in general, like, you don't get as much done when you have a negative mindset. Like, you're not as productive. I mean, I would challenge anyone who can say I'm negative all day long and a pessimist, but I get a ton of shit done. Like, there's a difference between being cautious and not being overly unrealistically optimistic. Like, I think that's the balance, right? Like, yeah, I would take the argument you do not want to be like, yeah, my sales are going to triple in 2 months. Like, no, like, right, that's unrealistic optimism. But having a general optimistic attitude of, yeah, I had a bad month, but I'm positive that I can fix it, right? I'm in control. I have like a positive mindset around this. I will find the solution. I will correct it. Like, that's being optimistic. And I think that mindset and surrounding people, consuming people with that really helps uplift you, and it makes you a better like critical thinker, right? Problem solver, better business owner. You have more energetic, you have more positive outlook, and when you're more positive, you end up surrounding yourself with more positive people. You have more energy, more things get done. It's just like a snowball effect. And so I just really, that's the last big thing I really want to say is like, be very cautious about the negativity that comes with it. And one of the reasons, the couple of people I consume, so I will share this, right? Because I say I don't consume a lot of content. I consume pretty much everything Gary Vee puts out, not from a not from like a practicality standpoint, but from a positivity standpoint, right? Like, he's a no excuses, no bullshit, positive personality. Like, take away whether you agree with what he's doing. I don't want to talk about that. I just mean in general, he's a very positive, like, optimistic, empathetic, kind person. That's what I like to consume. That's why, like, I watched one of Wade's videos the other day from Wade's Ventures. Like, that attitude, that demeanor, that outlook, like, that's what I love. Like, that's what I want to surround myself with. That's the stuff I will take the time to consume. Those are the type of accounts on Instagram I'm following and interacting with, is because I love that. Like, seeing that energizes me. And I think that you can use social media. It either ends up hurting your business or it helps your business. But I think that a lot of times it's hurting your business without you knowing it. And I think that's, really why I wanted the title of this video and to talk about it, is that's the reality around it, right? Is you have to choose how you're going to allow it to impact your business, and hopefully it's for the positive. So enough of a rant on that. There was some questions. You can keep dropping them in. We'll do some Q&A now. Definitely, if you disagree, whatever, drop it in the chat, drop it in the comments if you're watching this a second time. Just like the last video that really had a lot of engagement. Like I said, it was 120 comments, I think. It was awesome to hear all the viewpoints, even if I didn't agree with them. It's really helpful to have a well-rounded thought process and see all the perspectives around big issues or big things that drive your business. So I really encourage you, if you're watching this, drop your comments in. I mean, I love to hear from everyone and what they think about it. So someone asked, and you're welcome, Aaron, for keeping us accountable. Thanks. So Sadie said, specifically, what do you mean by features trying it? For example, what is a feature you've tested and learned from? Oh, great question. So let's say shipping. This is a good one. So eBay, well, and just talking to eBay, right? So eBay is encouraging free shipping. They have been for a long time. There's basically rewarding. I think you can't get a top rated seller without it. You have to, basically they're saying they're rewarding sellers for having free shipping more than not, right? That's the pretty factual statement from what eBay is advertising, what they're trying to promote. Now, when that came out, and I think they made the change to top rated seller, you didn't used to have to do that. I think it was just sometime last year and they made that change, and they made that a criteria. There was a ton of like backlash and people upset about it. You could approach it two ways, right? So you could approach that as, all right, well, I guess I have to do it if I want to be top rated seller. Or you could approach it as, well, let me test what it's like to keep charging shipping and not get top rated seller. Let me test what the numbers work out to be. Am I really saving more money as top rated seller, or am I making more sales, saving and hedging on the return costs by keeping charging shipping? Did you test that for a month or 2 months and see what that's like to decide if that is worth the opportunity cost, right? And I would challenge a lot of people in this specific space. I've been charging shipping. I flipped to it, I think it was September of 2017. So I started charging for shipping. I had never before, always on free shipping. You probably can find old videos of me saying free shipping. I charge flat rate $6.99 for every item, no matter what it weighs. That's the price pretty much. I can fit anything in a flat rate envelope for $6.99 or less. Minus shoes, and I don't sell a lot of shoes, so it fits my model well. But fits my model well. However, I would say from especially a used clothing and some of these other things, like in this particular niche, I don't know that the whole free shipping thing is bringing that much more opportunity or visibility to you. And judging from a lot of the comments I was reading, which is what's really interesting to me, is some of the comments from this last like eBay sales were slow. A ton of people were like, well, I do free shipping, I do 60-day free returns, I do everything they say, and all that happens is I go down in the search algorithm, and like just kind of there's some negativity around it, which is fine. I mean, if that's what you're testing. But Mike, I want to be like, so have you tested not doing all those things? Like, have you tested charging shipping, not offering free returns, like doing the opposite? Like, what happens when you do that? Because I can tell you right now, someone said that they forced us to do free returns, which I just don't agree with, because items not as described. And I've had tons of refunds so far from returns where I still get to keep my shipping costs. So I offer 60-day returns, which I think is totally fine. If someone's going to return it, they're going to return it, whether it's after the 30 days or not. But I charge shipping, and my sales are just fine. I don't feel like I take a hit to that. So that's one example of testing a feature. Another one might be like when promoted listings comes out, right? Everyone might jump on it, start to do it. Everyone might say you should do this trending rate, or you should do the trending rates. You shouldn't do the trending rates. You should do this much. It's like, not everyone's selling the products you're selling. So take the time and test it for yourself and see and measure the impact it has over a time period where you understand that, right? Like, and sorry if people are asking, isn't it free returns? It might be. And this is one of the funny parts where I don't consume a lot of content, one, and my VA does like everything for me. So I have just template settings set up. And so this is one of those things where it may be happening, but my return percentage is so small. Like, it doesn't, like, whether they're free or not, it has very little impact on my stuff. So anyway, sorry, that was a long way to answer your question, but I hope that makes sense. Hey, Treasure Hustlers, how you doing? Let's see. So someone said, Mike, yes, there's a shoe expert from the Dallas-Fort Worth market that did a video specifically naming the chain he was getting his great shoes from. Now they have their great shoes behind glass at $40 plus. Yeah, I mean, let's not be naive to that, and that really wasn't even the angle I was going to about this hurting your business, which is funny. So that's a whole different topic I could probably spend a ton of time on. But for sure, these companies are consuming information, guys. Like, they're definitely consuming and adapting, and that's why adapting as a reseller is important, right? Like, you shouldn't always expect that forever, in perpetuity, you're going to be able to source from the same location, the same items forever. Like, that's just not how the market works, right? That's not how capitalism or the free market works. People evolve, people catch on, those things go out, right? Those trends go out, and you need to find the new one. And the successful resellers, and I can boldly say this, right? The successful resellers and business people in general are the ones who evolve with the trends, don't complain about it, don't spend time dwelling on it. They just find solutions and keep moving and keep building, right? They keep evolving with what's going on. I miss thrifting, but I love building businesses. And for me to keep evolving with my business to hit my goals is I had to start buying in bulk. So, someone said they miss seeing my haul videos in thrift stores, and I apologize. I used to have a lot of fun doing those, but it doesn't fit my goals, right? Like, it doesn't fit what I'm trying to do for my business. So I had to evolve. Like, that's an example of really adapting to where I was heading. Not everyone wants to do that. Some people want to just go thrift because they enjoy it a lot. They want to make a certain amount every year. They want to not have a boss. That's for them. Like, everyone has their own goals that are individual to them. And that's also why, going back to one of my earlier points in this video, is you can't consume someone's blueprint for success as a reseller. Do it A to Z, and that's all you do, when most likely their goals are not the exact same as yours, right? Their area, all these things are not the exact same. You have to adapt and evolve it to you to make it be successful. So hopefully that makes sense. Here's another question. It says, do you cherry pick your cross posting to Posh or Mercari, or just cross post everything that the platforms permit? It's a great question. So I took kind of a scattered approach in the beginning when I was really just feeling out the platforms. That's kind of just cross posting all my good stuff. Then once I hired like a second VA to help with just getting the old stuff cross listed. And so I kind of caught up on Poshmark I probably have 2/3 of my stuff on there. And then I realized that cross posting on my old inventory was just silly because I was moving away from used stuff, and like I didn't think the ROI was really there. So I kind of stopped. I mean, I got most of it up there, and now I have a process set up. So all the new inventory entering my ecosystem for my business gets listed right away on all 3 platforms. I'm not taking the time. I kind of just drew a line in the sand. I'm occasionally I'll sit on the couch and I'll cherry pick and do some old, like good Under Armour or Nike, some really hot brands to like put over on Mercari or something. And I'll do that on my own. But in general, I've just put in place a system and a process for as listing new inventory. It all just goes into 3 platforms. And then, eventually that'll cycle itself so that just everything's on there. And I'm actually making a pretty concerted effort right now. I'm auctioning off on a week, pretty much every day I have auctions ending. Getting rid of some really old inventory, clearing that out, kind of standardizing the quality and the feel of my store, and just trying to, as we get to the end of the year, clear some of that space out. So I'm hoping that answers your question. It kind of was a scattered approach with when I started cross listing. So let's see. So yeah, Justin Time said I charge everything, sales and fine, no returns. Yeah. Someone said they asked me to lower my price by $5. I tried, it didn't work. Bunch of BS. Yeah, but I guess that's what I mean though, right? Like you're talking about that they told you to lower your price at $5, and for you're saying it didn't work. Well, what didn't work? It didn't sell right away. Like I don't think anything suggested is like from an eBay perspective is like, hey, lower it by $5 and it'll sell tomorrow, right? They're saying if you want to be competitive from a price perspective with like items, you should lower it by $5. That's what it's suggesting. Now, this is where it comes in adapting as a reseller and being intuitive to your marketplace, your niche, whatever it is. You need to know, all right, well, like items in eBay's terms, is that really like items, or is it just how their algorithm is viewing it from a category perspective? And do I know some specific things about this item that makes it worth more, and that's why I priced it higher, and I'm going to just leave it there and ignore it, right? I think those are like the adaptation, the critical thinking skills that really separate resellers. Hopefully that makes sense. Some Treasure Hustler said it's only 5 p.m. out here and it's pitch black. Yeah, I hate how dark it gets so early. I was outside working in the garage today, just kind of consolidating some bins, organizing, I got 1 pallet left to break down, just kind of getting things set up to close out the weekend and pulling inventory. And then I was out there at like 2:30 working for a couple hours, and I turn around and it's dark. I'm like, what just happened? Let's see. Someone said, when at a flea, ones that do best have 4 rotations of inventory and or more rotations wins. Oh, so he's basically saying that flea market continuing to rotate your front end displays is how you get a lot of sales. That makes sense. Ghostface just asked, can I talk about your Q4 sales? How are things compared to last year? Great question. So my Q4 last year was horrible. And if any of you followed me back then, basically I was working in a job that I was basically doing the work of like 3 people. I was working in FP&A and corporate world over here in Charlotte, and was doing supporting a lot of commercial people, and we were doing budgets. And so I ended up it was like the middle of August to I think like the beginning, I want to say the first week of October. I was working like 6 or 7 days a week, like 60, 70, 80 hours. I'd listed like nothing for like 2 months. Like my business completely halted. I killed it, unfortunately, because I was just trying to like survive. And we were planning our wedding. Like the wedding came out, we got married this last January. So my Q4 is really bad. So it looks like I'm killing it compared to last Q4. Because of that, but I can tell you that it's exceeding my expectations, which I'm happy about. I've intentionally haven't talked a lot about my numbers. Like I don't really post them on Instagram that much anymore for kind of the similar topic. Like I don't want to be the reason that I make someone else play the comparison game. Like I would rather talk about practically how to grow your business and share ideas and practices, and and I'll share some like these things have sold recently, or these are how many packages are going out and stuff. So I think that's fun, and I think that that's engaging. But I kind of intentionally don't post the sales stuff anymore, just because I just for that reason I talked about. I just don't really want to be a comparison. But it's doing very well for me. I'm having the best quarter four I've ever had. December is going to be my best. I pretty much, unless something catastrophic happens, this is going to be the best month as a reseller I've ever had. And I attribute a lot of that to selling on multiple platforms now. I mean, it's basically the same inventory I'm listing in process. I've padded an additional about $3,000 into my sales on a monthly basis, just over the last couple of months of making the effort. So it's just it's figuring things out. It's been pretty good. Let's see. This is a good question. I love this. Oh wait, hold on. I'll do the book question in a second because I like that one. But so Sadie just asked, wanted to tell you eBay right now has a glitch. Promoted items has a problem. They told me to unpromote all my items. Interesting. Sadie, can you elaborate a little more in the chat on that? Like, what's the glitch? I'm kind of curious what that is. I don't really use promoted listings that much, so it doesn't really concern me, to be honest. But that's really good to know. I appreciate you sharing. But definitely elaborate in the chat so people understand what you're talking about. So this question from Brightlight is, what are some books that you recommend about reselling, life motivation, and goals? So I love this question because I consume way more content that's non-reselling and a lot more self-development than anything else, because I really feel like that has the biggest positive impact on my business, like my energy levels, my mindset. So I'll just give some highlights of books I love. If you like Gary Vee, any of the Gary Vee books I recommend, just because they're very practical, they're very in your face, they're no excuses. They're definitely geared more towards marketing, but they're still good. Peter Voog is one of like my all-time favorites, a lesser known, I would say, from a author standpoint, but he has 6 months to six figures, which I think is a great book if you're just starting to understand and like kind of plan out a side hustle. And it's like kind of new to you. I think it's like the perfect book for it. Has a lot of motivation, has a lot of facts in it, has a lot of good like quotes and stuff to kind of pump you up, but then also some practical stuff to actually like execute. And then he came out with a second book called, I think it's The Entrepreneur's Blueprint. It's solid. I would definitely say 6 months, six figures before that. Darren Hardy, The Compound Effect is like a must. To me, that's a must read for everyone. Like if you don't read that, it's a spot on book, changed my whole mindset on pretty much everything. I have a ton more. Feel free. That's just three that you can think about. I don't have any like reselling specific books. I just have those the type of things. I love all of Tim Ferriss's stuff. I like Tools of Titans was one of my favorite books of his. I really enjoyed that. And then the other person I consume, I know it's not a book, but I love Joe Rogan's podcast. I don't know if anyone's watched Joe Rogan, but not always self-development stuff, but he has some really interesting guests on there. I really like a lot of the doctors he has on their interviews. I think it's really interesting. So yeah. Okay, here's a question. Aaron said, how are you going to minimize your tax liability for the year? That is a very loaded question, but I will take a swag at it, Aaron. I think it's a great question. So for one, there's a reason I invest in real estate. There are tax advantages in having real estate and balancing that. I can find a lot of synergies there. So that's one way. Another way is, to be quite honest with you, I am reinvesting so much into what you would call quote unquote labor. It's not labor on my P&L because it's like listing services, right? VA services or photography services. I'm investing so much on the front end of that to bulk up my inventory. I'm pretty much reinvesting all of like the operational profit back into that's a straight deduction this year. Like that's real time in the month that happens. So that's going to help hedge a ton on taxes, which is cool. I mean, you're kind of deferring in a way, right? But as you grow, it's nice to know that I don't have to pay taxes as heavy, right? I'm not making as much net income from an IRS perspective because I'm investing so much into that. I have bought a lot of equipment in the back half of this year. I've bought a lot of shelving and infrastructure, getting ready for additional growth. Buying tools and things I need before the year is out. Stuff like that for even my rental house that I'm doing upgrades to, buying tools to complete jobs over there. They're full write-offs. So just things like that you can do. This is why I recommend having a CPA that's knowledgeable that you trust and that you can talk to throughout the year is, I have at least 2 strategy calls in my CPA a year, like thorough ones. Usually have like 4 to 5 touch points of them throughout the year. And I have 24-hour email support from them. So like they have a 24-hour response within 24 hours. And they're really good. He has a pretty awesome team that he's grown now. So I get pretty good stuff. Now, my CPA specializes in real estate, not reselling. So I don't really recommend him to anyone. Like I've had a lot of people ask, like, I don't really recommend him if you're just a reseller. I use him specifically because real estate is a big part of my plans, my portfolio, like what I'm going to be doing. So I'm using him as some forward thinking. So hopefully that answers your question, Aaron. And then it's going to be interesting to see what they interpret for the food and beverage allowance deduction, right? Because with the new tax plan, there's a different interpretation to the entertainment piece of it. And they might not be allowing as much, allowing you to deduct as many meals and things like that. So I'm waiting to see what the interpretation is on it. Apparently they're going to come out with like a more formal guidance at the end of this year. But I haven't seen that yet. So it might be a hit. I'm not planning on being able to deduct any of it. That way it's just kind of free rolling if I am. I've kept all my receipts just in case. And that's a good idea for a video, Aaron. I'll put out kind of a practical video on tax strategy stuff. I think that's a good topic. Ghostface said, what's the max a one-person team can make on eBay selling used clothes in your opinion? That's a pretty loaded question. A one-person team, so that means you're doing everything start to finish. Oh man, just depends where you live. It really depends where you live and what you have available to source, right? Like what your buying cost is, right? Because like if you live in the right areas of the country with the right brands and you can go to the bins and find amazing stuff, you can make a lot more than someone who works with or lives someplace where there's not bins. You're paying, double thrift store prices than everyone. I mean, I think the sourcing opportunity really depends on that answer. But I think it's reasonable by yourself. I want to be really careful with that. I think it's so individual. It's so individual. But I guess you were saying max, like someone who's amazing, just crushing it all the time. Like I think someone can clear 6 figures by themselves. If they know their niche, they're in the optimal place. They just grind it out. They put in tons of hours. And when I say that, I mean like you're putting in like 7 days a week, a lot of hours. That's all you do. I know someone out in the Phoenix area that he's just a crusher. And he does exactly what you're talking about, and he clears in net 6 figures. But it's like he spends a lot of time and he's really honed his craft. I don't think that's something that you can just, I left and started doing this year and next year I'm going to do that. I think it's something you definitely have to build up to as well. And then there's tech and sports. So I forgot about him. You go follow him on Instagram. And I think Chris over at Daily Refinement has interviewed him a bunch of times. He does crazy volume, like way higher than that. He doesn't just do used clothing, but he's a one-man show. It's actually amazing. I'm going to take a couple more questions, guys, and then I got to wrap up. So I'm trying to read this question. It says, I use all promoted listings. This is Sadie answering that question earlier. I use all promoted listings, and apparently promoted listings for last week have not been coming up. I quit all promoted listings after calling them, and my sales went up. They said it was an issue. Huh. Interesting. Oh, this is another question. Is taking a course really worth it? So that's a loaded question. I'm going to answer it with the assumption that the course has valid information that really can help you and deliver. If it can educate you with information you don't have already and it's valuable, then it becomes, is the dollars you're paying worth the time you're saving to learn it? And what I mean by that is, we've talked about that information is pretty flat, right? That you can, if you do enough research and spend enough time and spend all the time, money, mistakes, resources, you can probably figure it out without a course. But is taking a 3 or 4 day course and having them give you all the materials and the blueprint, what I just talked about earlier, having a blueprint and then you adjusting it to you, is it better for you to pay that money up front, save all that time and jump right in? It might be for you. I think that's a very personal decision. And I think that comes down to what is your resource situation like, right? Is it a lot of money to you, a little money to you? How do you value time? I mean, that's so personal for a question. I haven't taken courses related into reselling, but I've taken courses like professionally that I think were really worth it. I've taken like programming language courses and things like that were 3 or 4 day boot camp type stuff. Super worth it to learn like programming languages and stuff like that. So it just depends what it is and that's a pretty broad question, but I do appreciate it. Like for instance, I would consider like a course or like it is a course. I'm going to, it's like a 4-hour mental toughness, like a SEAL Fit mental toughness course, the 29th of December. So I paid money to go to that. It's worth it to me to, learn techniques and think about that and how to really control your mind. Rod said, what's your percentage of sales, eBay, Posh, Mercari? So I've been running just under 40, or wait, percentage of sales. Hold on. I misread the question. eBay is about 80% of my sales. So I think you're trying to back into how much I sold this month. I'm trying to think if I did that math right. No. Yeah. Yes. About 80, I might say close to 85% eBay is still. And I think that's going to continue to change, right? Like it's been trending down every month. It's gotten better and better. And this new process I just put in place with listing on all platforms that the VA puts them on all 3, I think that's going to just rapidly keep kind of leveling out because of that. I think it'll be less proportional towards eBay. So Thrifty Mize is in the chat and said, one-man operation cleared $250K for the year already with 2 weeks to go. There you go. There's an answer for you. There's a number for you. Yeah, and Sadie, thanks for sharing that the thing with the promoted listings. It's interesting that the support was that honest with you. I mean, sometimes eBay support can be really good, sometimes they can be really bad. I've had both experiences. Michael Kelly said, do you think it's possible to go from 0 to full-time livable income, like 50K net, buy and return pallets, and how much upfront cost do you think it'd take? That's a really specific question with not enough information. I understand why you're asking it, but I don't think I can answer that. Like return pallets could have any number of type of inventory. I have no idea what your aptitude or skill set is, or whoever you're asking for, to analyze the inventory, make the right buying decisions, process it, list it. I mean, those are a lot of assumptions there. I'm not sure. I don't think I could actually accurately answer that question. Let's see. Just drive, so social media worth it. Otha said. Otha, I'm gonna to wrap up, so you're gonna have to rewatch in the beginning. I'm sorry, I don't want to readdress it here. But it's a good topic you will enjoy, hopefully, and definitely leave comments after on what you're saying and what you think about it. So Thrifty in the chat, he's the one who said he did 250K. He just elaborated on his numbers, and I don't know him personally, so I'm just kind of saying it out loud for anyone rewatching, but basically saying that he did 250K gross, and after fees, cost of goods, shipping, et cetera, he thinks about 160 of profit, which is ridiculously strong for a one-man operation. Aaron asked, am I selling more men's or women's clothing right now? Selling or listed, Aaron? Well, I'll just answer both. I would say it's kind of close to a 50-50 split now between men's and women's clothing. Well, I would say it's like a 40-40-20 with men's, women's, and youth. Youth being the 20% listed. I would say I'm selling more men's stuff right now. And I think it's because I don't know that it has to do with the gender necessarily. It just has to do with the type of inventory I have with the men's, is I have a lot more winter stuff for men's, a lot of sweatshirts and things. And so those have been selling a lot for, Christmas season. So I think that's why. It definitely changes throughout the year based on the season and what I have from a mix perspective. Gate City Picker said, just ordered our first smash lot, picking up tomorrow. Very cool. Congrats. Well, hopefully it works out. Like I said, I've had good success with Jasper. I think I've done 5 big purchases with him. And then he sent me a couple like sample boxes as thank yous for, a couple of the reviews I've done. So he's always treated me well. The quality of the pallets has always been really strong. But that's just what it's been for me. Roswell said, what's your split between eBay, Posh, and Mercari? I think I just answered that, Rod. But it's, I don't know if you're asking that from like a listing perspective or I'm not really sure. Oh, thank you. Thrifty Miser just gave a $20 super chat. Thank you very much for that. That was super generous. Background, he says, for your time, background while I was printing labels. Well, I appreciate you sharing the success you're having. Congrats to you on a monster year. I mean, as a one-man operation, that is incredibly impressive to be putting up those numbers. So congrats to you. It sounds like we all could learn a thing or two from you. I really appreciate that. That's super generous of you. Appreciate the $20 super chat there. So Rod, I'll try to answer your question. Says, what's the split between eBay, Posh, and Mercari? From a sales perspective, like I said, eBay is like 85% of my sales. Posh is like 17, 18, and Mercari, because I just started selling out less than a month ago, is probably 5% of my sales, maybe, or less. Gatesy Picker said they're in the Triad area. Would you be interested in a meetup? Yeah, I always like meeting other resellers. To be honest, like, I'm just transparent about it. It's really hard for me to find time to meet with people, and it's not because I don't want to. I wish I had more time to do it. But with balancing family and working full time and then doing this full time, pretty much. I mean, I spend full time hours in my reselling business. It gets really hard. But if I'm ever passing through, like, I do go visit family in the Raleigh area every now and then and things like that. I'll usually, if you see me post on Instagram about it, definitely message me. I'm always up for meeting other resellers and chatting with them. Aaron said maybe we can line something up for spring. For like a meetup, Aaron? Yeah, I mean, I'm all about it. We used to do meetups. I'll have to talk to Jason. I haven't really got to catch up with Jason and Corin over the Prof Sales YouTube channel there in a while. Jason lives near me in Charlotte here. We definitely have to do another meetup sometime and plan that. We've all been super busy, but I think spring is a great idea, Aaron. Let the weather clear a little bit before it gets blazing hot here. Maybe we'll just do it. We'll do a bigger meetup, and Gate City may be willing to travel here. We can do it here in Charlotte. It'd be fun. So I'm going to take like 1 or 2. Yeah, Aaron, everyone's busy. Yep, agreed. Especially this time of year, it's hard. So I'm going to take these last 2 questions, then call it a night. I really appreciate everyone sticking around and all the really great questions. So Hank Pham said, is your VA local? How do you find the people to list and photograph for you? VA is not local. Works 100% remotely. And I'm going to default my answer here just because sake of time. I just put out a video specifically for that question. It was like 3 videos ago, all about VAs and finding them and things like that. So definitely go watch that. If you have questions after, though, and I didn't answer something specifically, definitely message me on Instagram, and I will definitely help. And the last question I take is, can you replicate what you're doing buying shoes in bulk? Thanks. Absolutely. I mean, if you follow Chris over on Daily Refinement, I mean, he sells a lot of shoes. To me, he has my model, but it's better. And what I mean by that is he has really worked out the kinks. He has automated a lot more than I have. He's bigger than I have. He's full time. And he knows more about shoes in general. So I really encourage you to go watch some of his content on Daily Refinement, because he's doing what I'm doing, and he's just doing it better, to be honest. And someone just said, am I a programmer? So I work a lot with data. I've kind of evolved over the years. I used to be solely like finance, doing a lot of reporting, supporting salespeople, things like that, like front-facing data. So like Oracle BI and, kind of dashboarding. And now I do a lot more back-end, like SQL type stuff. Primarily SQL is the only language I really know. But that's the most commonly used one, or at least around here in Charlotte. So yeah, I would not consider myself an expert. It's a new craft for me, which is why I still enjoy my day jobs and still get to learn all the time. So, but all right, I have to wrap up, guys. I got to give another shout out here for this really generous super chat by Thrifty Miser, and definitely a shout out to him just for having a fantastic year and crushing it. So congrats to you. Appreciate everyone stopping in. If you can, leave comments after if you're watching this for the second time. Would love to hear your thoughts on the topic itself. I think it's an important one. It's important for people to discuss. Definitely hit that like button for me on the way out. YouTube likes that like button. And if you're not subscribed and you're new to my channel, it would mean a lot to me if you would hit that button and subscribe. Hopefully this content was valuable to you. And if there's any videos that you want to see in the future that I haven't covered on my channel, let me know, and I will try to bring those to you guys. So have an awesome night. Thanks so much for stopping in, guys. Hope the rest of your weekend's great. And I am a bit of Giants fan, so I'm really happy the Steelers won today. See you guys.